Hello, folks. This is Kim Williams with Williams on Workplace Justice, and I am thrilled for the conversation that we're having today. I caught myself in watching the last few videos. I'm excited about everyone. I'm way too excited about workplace abuse and workplace justice. So I'm just going to be thrilled today to have a very dear, wonderful lady on with me. Linda has been really instrumental for this process that's been 10 years in the making. And she's been working with experts all over the world to come up with the ISO 30415, which may sound like a mouthful of letters and numbers, but it actually has the potential to reshape the entire world, particularly in terms of how we look at DEI, what are some of the lessons we can take away from the last couple of years, and then how it's going to evolve into something even bigger and more grand and more beneficial for so many people. And so with that, Linda, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I know we're going to dive in a little bit deeper about the
Yes.
ISO. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. Is it Kimberly or Kim? What would
You
you
can call
prefer?
me Kim. Yes. So
Okay,
please do.
I'll
Kim.
take that. Thank you,
Okay.
Kim. I want to clarify something. I was not part of the original group who developed the ISO 30415. I'm very close and working very closely with people who was in that
Okay.
process.
It's because you're
Um,
so young that you couldn't have spent 10 years of professional years. So that's a believable statement. So
yeah.
yes, let's get that.
Having said that, I am part of the Standards Council of Canada, which is the arm of the ISO in Canada. And moving forward, I'm developing the next
Next
version
phase.
of
Okay.
the ISO 30415. And it's a privilege to be doing that because this tool is just so transformational. I can speak hours and hours about this. So let's dive
Well,
in.
let's do maybe not hours, but I mean, but yeah. So we built up this energy and this excitement for us. So what's your best breakdown of what really sets us apart? I have some thoughts on it too, but I would love to hear the expert definition.
Absolutely. So as you said, the ISO 30415 was developed over 10 years. For those who are not familiar with ISOs, there's this organization called the International Standard Organization, whose whole job is to develop international standards. How an international standard is developed is through consents, which means that not one day someone woke up and said like, what standard should we develop next? And, they decided to do it on DEI. No, it is an international consensus and on what are the needs of organizations. Because the ISO is the highest standard on whatever that process is. Actually, the most well-known ISO is the 9000 and 9001, which is about quality management. Some ISOs are mandatory. In the case of cybersecurity, some governments require. Europe is, the EU is very well known on requiring certain ISOs. In the case of the ISO 30415, is voluntarily. For now. But it was developed over 10 years. Experts from around the world that were working in diversity, equity, and inclusion before diversity, equity, and inclusion became DEI, or what we call it today, DEI. And the ISO is literally a roadmap on how to embed equity, diversity, and inclusion in every single part of the organization. It touches governance, it touches human resources, product and service development and delivery, supply chain, and other constituents. On top of that, it's not only this roadmap where it says, okay, you should be doing these things. It tells you, okay, you should be doing these things and you should have roles and responsibilities that are taking care of these things. And how are you measuring that those things are being impactful and that you're not just spending your money for the sake of spending it, which unfortunately we have seen in the past 3 to 5 years. There is a lot of spending in things that might not have the impact that we want it to have and that employees and society wants it to have, right? So I think that's a quick review of
But
what the ISO is.
And just to add to that a little bit, coming from like the HR side where we tried to roll out some of these things before, what I love so much is that it's a risk management strategy, the way that there's this
Yes.
framing around that, and it gets so granular into so many different parts of the organization. So it's not just some conversation that is lofty or that just lives between HR on the top of an organization, but it literally kind of embeds itself throughout the
Thank you.
entire organization. Yeah, it was really
Thank you for
impressive.
bringing that up, because I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions of what DEI is, and the
Mhm.
ISO with the methodology that we bring, the diversity and inclusion service management brings, is that DEI is not only about inclusion months. DEI is not only about, your hiring process, but it's about the risk management of a lack of a diversity, equity, and inclusion management system, right? When you're not paying attention on the creation of this management system, then the risk is there, right? DEI is part of the law, right? Discrimination is against the law. Whoever suffers discrimination, it doesn't matter. It's not about one group, it's about anybody suffering
Mhm.
discrimination, right? So when you have a management system that allows you to risk manage the organization, then you get all the benefits of
Mhm.
this system, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And how granular you get. I mean, so one of the things that I thought was really touching too is like it was at 36 different categories that you start looking into. Can you that also felt really unique compared to other things that are out there. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Absolutely. So the DISM methodology, diversity and inclusion service management methodology, divides the standard in 32 risk domains. First in four, which is those four groups: governance, HR, product and service development and delivery, and supply chain. And then those four are divided in 32. And HR is the biggest part of the standard because we know a lot of policy lives there, a lot of processes regarding people live in HR, but every single part of the organization has a portion of the standard. As you said, it's very granular because those 32 risk elements, the risk domains, they open to 171 elements. So those 171 elements, it tells you, like, do you have a policy? Do you have a process? Do you have a role and responsibility in charge of that accountability? How are you creating a feedback mechanism in order to improve? So a lot of organizations we see where, there's a lot of planning and a lot of doing, and it stays there. And then the standard asks, okay, it's great that you're planning. It's great that you're doing. Now, who's accountable for that? How are you getting the feedback to see that is having the impact that you want it to have? And how are you taking that impact and actually use it for making decisions so you can have a continuous improvement process?
Yeah. So for me, like as an HR practitioner, you really hold someone's hand through the whole process. You take a lot of guesswork out of it. And so really, really impressive on its own. But obviously, if you're looking at a 2.0, I'm assuming that you found some things you want to improve on, change. So did you get some feedback or, what's kind of led to the need for another version of this?
It's really not a 2.0 yet because it's pretty new. It only got released in 2021. It's more of a what are specific metrics? Right now, the standard says you should have this, you should have that. Do you have it? Do you not have it? But it doesn't tell you these are the metrics. We're
Gotcha.
adding that part. The metrics part is going to be added. Still in review, still not any way, shape, or form ready to be released anytime soon.
Mhm.
It's something that we're working on. But what is the standard itself as it is absolutely excellent roadmap. As you said, that fear that organizations that I don't want to do the wrong thing, right? I don't know where to start. We have a DI committee, or we have our culture department, that, you know, in charge of our workforce resilience. We just don't know what to do next. We have spent, I don't know, $10,000 in training. What is next? So the standard actually answers that question, right? It says like, well, where do you want to start? Like we have, you know, all these big areas where we can start, or we can start as granular as say onboarding. That's where I want to start because, you know, I want to make sure that whoever comes to organization feels ready, knows that it's included. We can tell them where ERGs are and, you know, where they belong in this organization. So you can go that granular, or you can say, you know, I want to start in governance. I want to start with policy that it touches everyone in the organization. So you go bigger picture, right? So it's very malleable as well. And that's something that we love because I think for many, many years, people have thought that ISOs are only for big corporations.
Yeah.
And this ISO actually is so good for any kind of organization. Actually, our very first client was a 26 employee company.
Oh, nice.
And we just finished our 3-year contract with them recently. And to see that improvement in these 3 years, it's just wonderful, right? And the feedback that we got and the employees that were against it first and then coming around, understanding what really this process is about, it's just wonderful.
Oh, and I want to pick up on that last little part there about what do you do when there are employees that aren't on board? You know, I mean, because we've watched these big swings and movements where there's a lot of support for DEI and then, you know, almost like a retreat or modifications or some folks that are coming out was never really supporting this. So, you know, what are some of your favorite talking points there if you've got folks within an organization that are suspicious of this for, I guess, any variety of reasons?
I think the situation with DEI, and I want to be, it's called now DEI, but it's existed for so many
Decades.
years, right?
Yes.
It's been called so many other things. It's just became DEI in the past 3 to 5 years. So I think the problem that we have had is the lack of understanding of what this is, right? Because it became about morality or only about morality. It's like if you're doing it, you're a good person. If you're not doing it, you're a terrible person. If you're doing it wrong, you know, it's all about this morality, which we know, you know, being an inclusive organization is the right thing to do, but as well is good for business, right? So another very important thing that the standard brings is that one professionalization of DEI, which means that everybody should know this as a base point. And 2, the standardization of language, right? So DEI is not about giving a leg up to one kind of people, but it's for everyone to feel included and to feel that they can thrive in an organization no matter who they are, right? So that is something that is not very well understood because of the different rhetorics from one side or the other one. So this standardization and this language that we're bringing is very important, right? The risk management part, the workforce resilient part, the policy part of it, the systemic part of it is very important because that is what DEI is, not the little services that we saw here and that sporadic.
Food, flags, and fun. Yes.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
with those are fun and, you know, they're important in their own way to do celebratory things for different communities. That's very important. But that is just 1% maybe of DEI, right? It's about the inclusion of veterans, it's inclusion of women, the inclusion of, you know, parents. And, you know, there's so many diversity types and they actually change throughout the world. We work in different markets. So myself, I'm Mexican. My business partner is from Peru. So we both speak Spanish. We work in Latin America as well. and the diversity there is different, right? It doesn't look the same as it does in the US and Canada, and even changes by country, right? We're just lumped together because we happen to speak the same language or have like communal like culture, but every country is very different, right? So as an example, in Colombia, one of the diversity types will be someone who has experienced military conflict. So that's within Colombia, that is a protected class, right? So we don't have that in Canada. You don't have that in the US. So it is very important to understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to look different depending on the context, right? But that doesn't mean that the essence of it changes. It's about managing risk. It's about workforce resilience. It's about inclusion of everyone, not only certain people.
Like that's like an evolution of how we look at DEI more broadly. I think when DEI first came out, we were looking at specific categories, and now it seems like it's really grown exponentially, not just in certain locations, but even like in the global conversation. Does that feel right to say, or?
Yeah, I think, you know, if we read every constitution of every country, you will find that discrimination is illegal, right? It's part of, you know, inclusion is part of the values of every country. The thing is that we have gotten used to the opposite, right? That of the inclusion of some and like the exclusion of others for whatever reason, right? So what DEI brings to light is like, hey, you know, it's actually good for the economy, not only for business, but good for the economy in general to include everyone in the organization, and that everybody feels that they can be themselves in the organization. They don't have to hide who they are. Some people cannot hide who they are, right?
You can't
So
hide your
it's just
gender. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So how do we include those people and not tell them to just, you know, shut up and work, but like to really make sure that their needs are met in, you know, within organizations, right? That will make them feel happy at work and produce excellent work. There's endless research from well-known publications of all spectrum that show that when people feel happy at work, they feel included, they do their best work, they have more imagination, they can produce more and have best ideas. You know, diverse teams are, you know, better at coming up with solutions. So I think the rhetoric hinders development of organizations, right?
And hurts them too, because it has a chilling effect on folks. It silences them, and you know it's also the converse is kind of true too. You know, where you're giving all these lovely examples of how to pull the best out of people, but part of having a good risk framework is what happens when you do the opposite of that, when there's not equal access to opportunity, when your biases are really hurting people's careers. Good talent will walk out the door. So it becomes more than not just getting the best out of them. It's you lose people and you lose access to markets. You know, we talk about that a lot in the U.S. You know, we're rapidly approaching this kind of point of becoming a minority majority. Was it? Wait, am I saying that right? Minority majority. Yes. And so if you're only centered on one type of market, or the top of your organization can only connect with one type of market, what is that going to mean for you as a business? And so there's also, I think, some real tangible dollars that are attached to some of this stuff too.
100%. When we talk with our clients, and for a long time, because DI was as I mentioned before, kind of like co-opted to this be this moral thing only. And it's like you can talk about the financial case of DEI. We even shouldn't go there because this is the right thing to do. So why are we talking about this? But
Right.
we have to be realistic, you know, like we're in a capitalistic world where the dollar speaks. So while we are in this, we need to talk about the benefits, the financial benefits of
Mhm.
having a really good DEI management system, and two, the financial risks of not having it. And that's a conversation that we constantly have with our clients or potential clients or people want to learn about this. We talk about legal, we talk about insurance costs, because if we think that the insurance organizations are not looking at this and saying, oh, how many lawsuits are we getting, in the past, whatever, you know,
Mhm.
time, how much is that costing us? How much your organization's insurance cost is going to go up?
Yes.
And for organizations that are actively and intentionally working on minimizing this risk, then they are going to get a break on their insurance. So we go to the same. We are always going to talk about the business case because the business case is undeniable, undeniable. And we have insurance organizations like Lloyd's of London
Mhm.
looking at the ISO 30415 as the benchmark for risk management for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Which is just also, again, smart business sense. I mean, it's logical that if you don't care about DEI, you don't care about these environments, so you're going to have more race claims, you're going to have more harassment claims, which is going to hit at your EPL. I mean, so you're going to get hit with that. You're more likely to have insurance payouts. You're more likely to have those premiums go up. And so by showing that you're proactive in this space, one, it's a counter to the lawsuit itself to say, hey, we can demonstrate through a logical risk framework that we've done everything humanly possible, that we like deeply care about this, and we can demonstrate that. Not only could that help you in court, but also help you in terms of what you just mentioned with those liability premiums. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant that you're working on that from that angle. Really love to see that.
And this is something that can be audited,
Mhm.
right? Versus just the feel good part that is hard to, if it's not well measured, it's really hard to look at the impact. But
Yeah.
with a framework such as the ISO 30415 and the DISM methodology, it is a clear path to measure and to audit and to see results. So when that happens, that you can go to insurance and say, like, listen,
Yeah.
and you can go to your, any department to say, listen, we have a lot of attrition.
Hmm.
Why are we having attrition? What is happening in an organization? That's another thing that organizations are not connecting the dots. What is the percentage of people? Oh, I wish I had the number right now, because I can't remember at the top of my head, but there's a survey that said there's a higher percentage of people staying in the organization if they know they're working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Call it culture, call it workforce resilient, call it belonging at work, whatever organizations want to call it.
Yeah.
When employees know that the organization has these values and they're actively working on it, it's a big percentage, and I'm going to send it to you so maybe
I
you can put it
believe
in the
it. Yeah. Well,
notes.
no, because as an organization, otherwise you're just transactional. I'm going to exploit you. I'm going to take this. You're only as valuable as the services you provide. Nobody's going to be in love with an organization like that. No one's going to want to jump out of bed and do things for that organization. They too, especially the younger generations that are coming up, care about this so deeply. And if you don't care about me as a human being, then there's going to be limits on how much love is returned to the company.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Like the new generation, this is not optional.
All right. I
Like,
know.
organizations complaining and not having enough of a pool of
Hmm.
potential employees to hire. It's because maybe the new generation is not feeling that they are aligned with their values. And
Yeah.
it's not like, in the olden times where you're staying in your organization for 50 years and that was it, right?
Yeah.
So how do you retain this amazing talent? How do you retain them to be committed to your organization? And this is a great way to do it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like the norms are being burned down all over the place. And there's a lot of people question, even where I'm now seeing that 2 weeks notice is going away as this kind of old standing customary thing to do. And they're like, no, when they fire you, they don't give you 2 weeks notice. So you're just like, so they end the relationship. And so we're seeing like this, the way leverage is used and the way power is kind of considered and engaged with is really fascinating. So as a 54-year-old now, I have to really commend these younger folks, because they're like, yeah, that's kind of stupid that you put up with that kind of abuse. And I never questioned it, growing up. So good for them.
Yes, I think definitely the generation of the why, but why?
Yeah.
And we
And
were
it's a
like,
really
"Oh,
fair question.
because
Yeah.
it's the way it is." And they're like, no, but tell me why. And why do I need to follow this? It's like that doesn't work anymore. And
Yeah.
I think organizations are seeing that. And the ones with vision
Mhm.
are the ones that are working with us and making sure that they are having a management system that is allowing them to attract and retain this talent. And the ones that are not seeing the
Mhm.
vision of this are unfortunately not going to last very, very long.
No, I love that. And I used to like to say that as a VP of HR. It's like, you can run away from this stuff if you want. I will come poach your best people. And so there's plenty of other folks that I know think the exact same way. And so really, really helpful stuff, Linda. Like, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you, to learn more about everything that you're doing? What is it you would love to share?
Well, they can follow us, and so my organization is called Ventura Collective. We are in partnership with Inclusion Score, which is a software that we use for the diagnosis of the ISO 30415. And you can follow us on LinkedIn or on Instagram. You can reach out to me as well at Linda at We Are Ventura, or maybe it's E. Yeah, in English. I
I'll
still am
include
not
it in the
sure of that. Yeah.
descriptions. Let me
At
cover.
weareventura.com. And yeah, I think one of my last thoughts for this will be some organizations there's like, we just don't have the money. Like there's not a budget for this. And for that, we say, you're going to spend the money. You just decide where you want to spend it. You either spending it rehiring, retraining, paying lawsuits, paying a higher insurance premium, or you spend a lower amount, very an impactful amount in creating a management system that's going to help you retain people, they're going to help you risk management, and they're going to help you to prevent as much as possible these lawsuits.
Yeah, prevention is almost always cheaper than the cure. Yes. 100%.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. You're out there changing the world, and I really appreciate your time.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to, to keep giving this message to organizations and everybody who would like to listen.
Outstanding. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.